Hello, everybody. I just want to give you a very brief recording here as to the process that you go through when you are submitting a file through the Zip Forms Transaction Management System. There are multiple things that I want to point out along the way, including just how you be aware that you are applying the right template when you're starting a new transaction and how to submit the whole transaction and where to do that versus just to submit a single document for review. So I'm going to go ahead and start screen sharing and show you my zip forms transaction tab is where I am. I'm going to click new to create a new transaction. And I'm just going to touch on a couple of things here. We're in the transaction information screen where we need to enter a name for our uh, file. We're going to name that the property address. And since this is a sale file, we are going to put the buyer's name in parentheses afterwards. So let's just call it 123 Main Street. And then we have the buyer's name afterwards. Some things I want to point out on the screen, though, that's very important. You need to make sure that your location is your individual office. There is a drop-down menu here. You don't want it to have corporate selected. You want to select your office. If your office is not there for you to select, that's something you're going to need to let your manager know so she can get that fixed for you. And then before you select any category, scroll down to the bottom of this screen and see that you are listed there as the agent. See if there's more than one account, because if there is more than one account for yourself, sometimes one is linked to the office and the other one is not. So you want to just make sure that things are working right. You can see once I select the category of residential and scroll back down, a sales template for Erie Southwest does get applied. And that is what is supposed to happen. You shouldn't have to go into My Templates to pick your template. And in fact, you may have made some templates for yourself years ago that won't have all the documents you need that you need in 2021's file. And it certainly won't have the input sheet that you now need when you're submitting your file digitally. So you do want to use the sales template for your office. And that should, once you select residential as the category, automatically populate for you there. If it does not, you can look for it here, but it should automatically populate for you there. You should not have to go into My Templates. If you have more than one account listed here under agents, that may be the problem. So this is why you would go and look and see if you're listed there twice, to try the other account and see if the template populates for you then. Once you've done all that, you know you're in the right office, you know the template has applied for you, you can then save it after you've named it with the property address. When you do that, it's going to take you straight to the summary tab, but I'm not going to get into what all you need to fill out here on the summary tab. Just suffice it to say that you should complete it as best that you can and enter your parties and all of that. But we're not going to get into how to do that. We're just going to go straight over to the Documents tab, and you should see a Working Documents folder and an Executed Documents folder over here on your left. And when you click on the Working Documents folder, in that Working Documents folder is that template that was applied. And every document that you should need for your transaction should be there, including that input sheet that I was referring to. Now that input sheet, we're just going to open and look at briefly. It's the equivalent of writing on your file folder all of the information about the transaction or the sale that you're handing in. So you're going to want to record everything from the property address to the seller's names, to the buyer's names, to the sale price, to whoever the listing and sales agent are, well, obviously you're the sales agent if you're uploading it as a sale, but you get my point. It's all the same information that you would find on a file barrister's file folder cover. We need you to fill that out. The AA needs that for entering the data from one place into Profit Power. That's our accounting system, and it's important that we have all that information in the accounting system so that you get paid. So please make sure that you fill all that out like you would the cover of your file. And I'm not really going to fill all this out today. I'm just going to show you how to, we're going to pretend it's already filled out. I'm going to show you how to submit it for approval. And obviously, I want to also point out, if you need any additional forms, you should have 3 libraries over here. You should have the Howard Hanna West Penn, the Pennsylvania Association of Realtors, and the Greater Erie Board of Realtors if you are an Erie agent, or whatever your local board is if you are not an Erie agent. So if you're missing any forms that you need, you can get them from the main library as always. But the template should have everything you need. And say I want to put my working documents into my executed folder. That's what you should do before you submit your file, is take all of the executed documents. And we're going to just pretend these are executed. The first one I want to take and put over there is my input sheet. There's a couple different ways you can do this. You can drag it and drop it into the executed documents folder. Or you can select it and go over here to the actions bar and click on move, and then click on the folder you want it moved to, the executed documents folder, and click move, and it will move it that way. Or you can select multiple documents, or use the select all and select them all at once. And you want everything in your executed documents folder that you are going to need if the real estate commission comes in and wants to audit your file. Anything that you want saved in your file for storage, if there were a problem or a legal problem down the road, you would have all your documentation. Every one of those forms and all of that information needs to be moved over to your executed documents folder. So let's say that's all we need for this particular file, and we want to move it all at once. Up here in this bar of actions we can take within this transaction, I'm going to click on move, and I'm going to select the folder, the executed documents folder that I want to move it to, and click move here. And then you will see, if I open the working documents folder back up, that everything that I had selected moved over to the executed documents folder. So let's go over to the executed documents folder. We see everything that we need is there. We're not going to hit submit for review here. We're going to go back to the summary tab. And from the summary tab, we are going to put the property in the appropriate status and click submit for review here. It's right next to your status choices on your summary tab. And that's important because this is how you submit the whole file for review and not just one document at a time. So you hit submit for review, and when you do, this needs review box should be highlighted as the one selected. You can enter a comment if you want. You can tell your manager the seller's disclosure will be added when it is sent back signed. That is just letting your manager know that if there's a document missing, you're aware of it and you're going to add it soon. And if you have no note like that, obviously, then you'll leave that blank and you click apply. Now, what that does is, if we go back to the transaction tab, takes a minute sometimes when you're using bandwidth. You can see there is a yellow corner here on this file. That's indicating that you submitted it for review, and that will help you in just kind of staying organized in case you're thinking, oh, did I submit that for review? You can go check and see if that color is yellow. That means you submitted it for review. Now let me just jump over to the manager's end of things for a moment. On the manager's dashboard, I would see this transaction was submitted for approval down here. If you had just submitted a single document, it would be over here under documents to approve. But that's not what you do when you're submitting a whole file and turning in the whole file. You would do it as a transaction. So as a manager, I would click on that and I would be able to change it from needs review after I review the documents, obviously, to make sure they're all there. I would be able to switch it from needs review to approved. And I can write a note. I can say, don't forget that seller's disclosure when it is signed. And you will get a copy of that note in your email. It will also be recorded here in the file. Or if you're forgetting something else, your manager might put a note, hey, what about that COVID addendum? And you hit apply. So the status is then changed to approve. So if you are in your transaction and you see, I might have to refresh here for a moment, that you should see that the bottom corner of that particular transaction is listed as green. That means that it's been approved. So I'm just going to go back to transactions for a moment. And we should see that there is a green corner on that transaction. That means that your manager has approved that transaction. Okay. Now, let's go back in it for a moment, because let's just say that we want to add that document. We're going to go to the documents part of the transaction, and we want to open our executed documents folder, and we want to add that seller's disclosure that maybe it was emailed to you and you have saved it, or you scanned it and you saved it on your desktop, and you want to upload that because it was signed in person. It wasn't signed via e-signing process. So you want to upload that by clicking Add Document here. You can browse for the document and you can find it on your desktop, wherever you might have saved it. We're just going to pretend that it's this right here. And then we're going to say okay, and you'll see that that document will get added to your executed documents folder here, right here at the top. So you already submitted your whole file for approval, so you don't need to do that whole process of going to your summary tab and submitting your whole file again. You can just click on submit for review next to that one document and click on needs review and say, here is that seller's disclosure I promised. Here is the signed disclosure, and that note and that request for approval will go to your manager. And you will see next to the document that it says needs review. Now, if I switch back to the manager dashboard for a moment, you'll see when I scroll down that I now have one document to approve. So that's the difference between submitting an entire transaction and submitting just a document. Again, when you're submitting the entire transaction, you're going to make sure you have the input sheet filled out for your AA, and you're going to submit the whole transaction from the summary tab. And if it's just an individual document, you're going to submit it for approval right next to the document and not in the summary tab. So that's all I have for today. I hope that helps you guys, and have a great weekend.